Okay, so now that you guys have your user account set up and your trackpad is set up and you understand kind of the basics of navigating around the primary part of the OS on a Mac, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about opening up an app, putting it so that it's always down here in your dock. And then we're going to create a little file that we can use to kind of demonstrate deleting and then emptying what is called the trash can on the Mac. So it's kind of like the recycle bin on a PC if you're familiar with that. So if you look down here in my dock, you'll notice that I've got a lot of things down here. I've got Adobe Illustrator, I've got Flash, and I've got Dreamweaver down here, but I don't have Photoshop down here. So what I need to do is I need to open up Photoshop. And I am going to then, once it's open, make it so that it stays in my dock permanently, like these apps. And just another little quick tidbit about the dock. When you are looking at apps down here, notice how, like when I hover over something, this is the magnification. It gets bigger, first of all. But none of these apps that are through here are open and running right now. And the way that I know that is because there's no little kind of white dash mark down at the very, very bottom of the screen. So QuickTime is running because it's making this video right now. My Mail app is running. It's in the background over on another screen. And Google Chrome is doing the same thing. And Finder, if Finder ever doesn't have one of these little white dots under it, something is majorly wrong with the computer because Finder is basically the operating system. You cannot delete it. So it should always have a little white dash underneath it. So let's go ahead and open up Photoshop and we will make it so that it's permanently attached to the dock from here on out. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can open Photoshop. You can come down here to the Finder and then once Finder is open you could navigate to your applications and then to Photoshop, or you could simply once again use the Spotlight search. So if I hit Command on the keyboard and spacebar, I can go ahead and type in PHO. And notice it comes up with Photo Booth. That's a Mac native app. It's going to pop up. It's going to be the primary thing that'll pop up. But Adobe Photoshop CS 5.1, I'm not sure if you guys have 5.1 or 5.5, but Photoshop should pop up. So if I just click on that icon, it should start running Photoshop here in just a second. You can see that it's thinking because you got the little rainbow wheel going. And hopefully it's going to pop up in the dock down at the bottom of the screen, regardless of if it's permanently docked down here or not. So come on, Photoshop. There we go. This is the screen that you guys will see. And your computers will probably run a little bit quicker than this one does. This is my older desktop Mac at home. So when it gets going, it should pop up. You'll notice, here we go. You got a toolbar on the left and you've got all of these things on the right. And we will discuss what all of those things are at a different time. But what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and make sure that Photoshop never leaves. So even when I quit Photoshop, if I were to quit it right now, it would disappear from the dock. But I want it to stay here. So if I click on the Photoshop icon and don't let go until this little screen pops up, so you're clicking and holding on it, then you can scroll up to Options, and then you can keep in the dock, okay? And you can see that Open at Login and Show in Finder. Open at Login basically means when you log on to your computer, Photoshop will load. It will put it in the startup preference for your username. I wouldn't do that because it makes startup a whole lot longer, and it won't be something that you're gonna always use. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and keep it in the dock. Okay, and so now if I quit Photoshop, it will stay in here. But I don't like it over here. I like my things to be fairly grouped together, especially the Adobe apps. And I like Photoshop and Illustrator close together because I always use them. Maybe it's obsessive, I don't know. It's just the way that I like to organize things. So if I click and hold again, oh wait, it's not working. It's not wanting to do it. So if I click and immediately drag, not click and hold. So if I click and immediately drag it over, notice how it made a spot for it, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and drop that right there. So there's Photoshop's new location. It's always gonna be there. Now, let's say you've got something on here that you don't want to use, or you don't think you're going to use a lot and it's going to take up a lot of space. I've got a lot of that stuff in here. Since I always will use my system preferences going through the Spotlight search, I can click and just drag this up here, and if you notice, a little cloud will appear. There we go, and it disappears, a poof of smoke into thin air. Image capture I'd never use. So again, poof of smoke. iPhoto I really don't either. And you'll notice that if you only drag it a little ways away from the dock, you don't get that poof of smoke. So you got to go a little bit higher up. Now, I don't want to lose aperture. This is a photo program that I use a lot to manage all of my photos and edit my photos. So I'm going to keep this down here. And if you notice, I've got it right here next to preview because those are both photo apps. I've got some of my utilities to like manage my time, mail, calendar, reminders, and notes. I keep those all together. And then over here I get into my graphics programs. This is Blender, it's a 3D program. Skype should probably be somewhere else, but oh well, it's fine for right now. So the dock is organized. So let's quickly create a small little file in Photoshop. And let's go over a couple of the quick keyboard shortcuts so that we can demonstrate how to manage and create in Photoshop, save, close, and then what we'll do is we'll delete it and empty the trash to finish up this tutorial. So in Photoshop, I cannot emphasize enough keyboard shortcuts. So when you're at this main screen, if you hit the Command button and then N on the keyboard, it will come up with the new template right here. Now this is really cool because if you have something saved to your clipboard from, say, like a Google image search, and you go to create a new file, it will automatically size your new file window to the specific dimensions of that file that you've copied from the internet. So I'm just going to go, see, and it says clipboard right here. So I'm just going to go with US paper. It's an 8.5 by 11. The resolution is 300 pixels per inch, or DPI. And I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. And what it's going to do is it's going to open up a brand new white background Photoshop file for me. And there we go. So Untitled 1, right now it says that you're looking at it at 25%, and that means the zoom. If I hit Option, Command, and 0, it should take me to 100% of the image. So now I'm looking at pixels at 100%. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. If you just hit Command 0, it will take it so that it takes it back out to just the full size of the screen. Now, if you keep the dock visible down here, this window will actually size up smaller, so you don't want to do that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a standard brush, so I'm going to hit B on my keyboard, okay, and I have my brush selected. And if you look over here, you'll notice that white is the color that is selected on top, okay, and black is the bottom color. So if I were to erase this white right here, I would actually see black behind it because black is set as the background color. But I really want black to be on top. So all I need to do is hit X on the keyboard, and what it does is it'll swap those two colors. Now let's say I have like a red selected, and I don't want red as my primary and white as my secondary. If I hit D on the keyboard, it takes it back to black and white. D is the default color setting. So now I can come in here and I can color a quick squiggle. I'm going to go ahead and hit Command S on the keyboard to save it. And it's going to pull up the save dialog box. And I just want to make sure that I'm saving it to my desktop. So I'm going to click over here on desktop. Desktop. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and save it out. Okay. It's going to pop up with your JPEG options. I'm going to say OK. And it's going to save it out. So now if I close this, and if I hit Command Q, Photoshop will quit. But you'll notice that as it quits and the white little line goes away down here, that Photoshop will still be on the dock. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to show you guys how to delete. You're just going to take this, you're going to drag it down to the trash can, right like that. And it's in the trash can. And if you click and hold on the trash can, you can just go to Empty Trash. Yes, I'm sure I want to empty the trash. And it's going to delete everything away. And there we go. So now you should have a good idea of how to start Photoshop, open it up, make something new, and then quit.